She's 6, so no.
In the Queltequan galaxy, the Grand Councilwoman summons an emergency session of the Galactic Council. During the session, she announces that her guards have just apprehended a strange creature created by a scientist named Jumba. After calling the strange creature a monster and a dangerous threat, the Grand Councilwoman says Jumba was tasked with safely studying biological threats, not creating them. Jumba looks confused and says that the creature, Experiment 626, isn't a threat. He adds that 626 is supposed to be the Federation's most sophisticated weapon. He says that 626 is unstoppable, indestructible, and smarter than 100 supercomputers. The members of the Council still believe 626 is a threat, and the Grand Councilwoman suggests testing 626's intelligence by telling him to show that there's something good inside him. As she gives him a chance to speak, he just jokes around inside the cage. The Grand Councilwoman then concludes that 626 is naughty and he'll be exiled while Jumba's lab will be destroyed.
He's in hyperspace.
Jumba tries to fight this, but he's stopped by the guards. Almost immediately, 626 is transported to a lab where he'll stay until his exile. Interestingly, 626 happens to be really smart, and he manages to escape. He also steals a space cruiser and leaves before anyone can stop him. The Grand Councilwoman orders her guards to follow him, but they report back that he's now in hyperspace. As she asks where he'll land, one of her pilots mentions that 626 is expected to collide with a planet called Earth. Another pilot says the planet is full of water, and the Grand Councilwoman mentions that water increases 626's molecular density. The pilots look confused, but the Grand Councilwoman explains that 626 will become heavy and drown in water. Interestingly, they notice that 626 will most likely land on Earth safely, and the Grand Councilwoman looks disappointed. Just as Jumba is being dragged to his cell, he jokes that it will take a genius to catch another one. He also tells the Grand Councilwoman to release him so he can help catch 626. The Councilwoman doesn't like this idea, and she insists on burning down Jumba's lab and making him pay for creating a dangerous animal. She adds that if they're unable to catch 626, they'll just vaporize the planet. Almost immediately, an agent named Pleakley shows up and calls himself an Earth expert. He then advises against destroying Earth because it's a protected wildlife reserve. Following this, the Grand Councilwoman agrees to send Jumba to Earth to find 626 and bring him back. She also tells Pleakley to follow Jumba and ensure that he follows the Federation's rules. Pleakley gladly accepts this, but Jumba complains that he doesn't need a babysitter.
Yeah, this outfit screams expert.
Meanwhile, on Earth, a girl named Lilo drops a sandwich in the ocean for some fish before heading to her hula class. When she gets there, she shows some girls the friendship bracelet she made, but they make fun of it. Another girl named Myrtle says Lilo cannot have a friendship bracelet because she has no friends. As the other girls laugh about this, Lilo looks disappointed. Shortly after, the girls are called up for a performance in front of their parents. Lilo notices that her sister, Nani, isn't around to watch her, and this makes her sad. Nani has already taken a break from work so she can watch her sister's performance, but her truck suddenly develops a fault. During the hula performance, Myrtle intentionally knocks Lilo to the ground, but no one says anything about it. This gets Lilo pissed, and she pushes Myrtle off the stage. Everyone looks shocked by this, and the teacher quickly stops the show. A while later, when Nani arrives at the hula school, she realizes that the show ended a long time ago, and Lilo has already gone home.
Can I help you carry anything in?
When Nani reaches the house, Lilo locks the door to stop her from coming in. Nani says she's sorry for missing Lilo's performance, but Lilo doesn't want an apology. Almost immediately, a social worker named Mrs. Kekoa drives toward the house, and Nani tells Lilo to open the door quickly. Lilo still refuses to do this, and as Kekoa walks up to the door, Nani suggests taking the one at the back. When they get there, Nani goes inside first to clean the house and convince Lilo to behave well. Kekoa finds this weird, but she doesn't complain. scene. After Kekoa enters the house, she sees the pot on the cooker overheating, and she tries to help Nino clear the smoke near the smoke detector. However, Lilo says she already took the batteries out of the detector because it's always going off. This doesn't look good for Nani, but she quickly denies it. Kekoa then sees blood on Lilo's arm, and she asks about it. Lilo says she got the cut while practicing how to jump out of her room window.
Do you have tea?
Kekoa looks shocked, but Nani gets Lilo to stop saying bad things. As Kekoa then asks how Lilo is doing, she starts saying all the nice things Nani wants her to say. Despite this, Kekoa doesn't seem impressed, and she tells Nani that the meeting didn't go so well. She says she knows it hasn't been long since they lost their parents, but it's her job to make sure Lilo is in a stable environment. Hearing about the death of her parents brings back sad memories for Nani, but she composes herself. Kekoa then mentions that a new director is coming to town soon, and she'd like to tell the person about how great the girls are doing together. Nani likes this, and Kekoa suggests setting some goals to accomplish before the new director comes. Nani then asks what she has to do, and Kekoa says she has to clean the house and ensure that they have a fully stocked fridge. She also tells Nani to pay all their bills and file for health insurance for Lilo and herself.
You don't have to eat it.
Nani says she'll get everything done, and Kekoa leaves. Nani then chases Lilo around the house and scolds her for misbehaving when Kekoa was around. She also warns Lilo that such acts will make the social worker split them up. Lilo just tells Nani to stop acting like her mom, and she heads to her room. Shortly after, as Nani heads out to throw some things in the trash, her neighbor, Tutu, notices that she looks tense. Tutu says she can tell that the meeting with the social worker didn't go well, and Nani confirms this. Tutu then complains that she doesn't like how much Kekoa smiles, but Nani reminds her neighbor that she and Lilo's future is in Kekoa's hands. Tutu tells Nani not to say that because her future is in her own hands. She adds that she's sure it will be bright because Nani is very intelligent. Nani then complains that she knows Tutu put the college acceptance letter she threw away back inside her bag. Tutu tells Nani to consider going there because it's Nani's dream school and the best place for her to study her dream course, marine biology.
You stop with this?
Nani says she can't go because Lilo needs her, but Tutu still tries to convince her to change her mind. Just then, Tutu's grandson, David, returns from the beach and says hello to Nani. He also mentions that it has been a while since she came to the beach to surf, and he wants to know when she'll come around next. Nani says she might surf again when Lilo turns 18, and David looks confused. Later that night, Nani makes up with Lilo and brings her sister's food to the room. Lilo then asks if she's bad, but Nani says she isn't. She adds that Lilo only does bad things sometimes, and she just needs to improve. Lilo then talks about how she shoved Myrtle, and Nani asks what happened. Lilo says people treat her differently, and Nani mentions that it's because they don't always know what to say.
No more Tingletown.
Meanwhile, 626's cruiser suddenly starts malfunctioning, and he loses control of it. Elsewhere, Lilo asks if Nani will still be able to visit her when she joins the Marines. Nani realizes that her sister is talking about going to college to study marine biology, and she says she doesn't think it will happen. Almost immediately, Lilo sees 626's cruiser about to crash, and she assumes that it's a shooting star. She then sends Nani out of her room and makes a wish, saying she wants a real friend. Meanwhile, 626's ship crashes in the woods, but he survives. Suddenly, he starts getting random shocks from the collar around his neck, and it turns out that Jumba is playing with the device meant to control it. Pleakley eventually takes it away from Jumba and mentions that the collar has a tracker that will show them where 626 is. Almost immediately, 626 stops getting the shocks and finds a way to remove the collar. Pleakley looks shocked when he gets an alert to notify him about this. But Jumba says they can still track 626 by stopping at his last recorded location. Elsewhere, 626 sees a cake slice at a nearby wedding, and he disrupts the party. Everyone looks shocked to see him, but they're unable to grab or hit him. After a while, 626 leaves the party and gets hit by a bus on the road. The next morning, Pleakley and Jumba are already on land, and they use their cloning devices to change into humans. They then head to a nearby resort to book the room they'll be staying in. Before Pleakley gets settled, Jumba creates a portal on the wall with his portal gun. Pleakley doesn't understand this, but Jumba says they need to start looking for 626. Pleakley then mentions that they have to do things discreetly and avoid drawing attention. As they then leave the building normally, they see a news report about a strange animal that got hit by a bus and has been taken to a nearby animal shelter.
What are you doing?
Pleakley and Jumba immediately figure out that it's 626, and they decide to check out the animal shelter. Coincidentally, Lilo is already nearby with Tutu, and she begs her neighbor to let her visit the shelter. As Tutu agrees, Lilo heads there immediately. Meanwhile, 626 wakes up in a cage and sees the dogs at the shelter staring at him strangely. He eventually breaks out of the cage and leaves the building, but Jumba suddenly starts shooting tranquilizer darts at him. 626 dodges all the darts and goes back into the shelter for safety. Lilo has just entered the room to look at the dogs, and 626 sees an adoption advert showing a girl hugging a dog. This gives him an idea, and he quickly changes his appearance so he can look almost like a dog. As Lilo sees him, she looks scared because she has never seen anything like him. After she calms down, 626 says hi to her, and she looks amazed that he can talk.
Perfect.
Almost immediately, Tutu and the shelter attendant try to keep 626 away from Lilo because they're not sure what he is. Lilo says he can talk, but Tutu mentions that dogs aren't supposed to be able to talk. When 626 hears this, he starts barking to convince her that he's a dog. Lilo then begs Tutu to let her adopt the dog, and she agrees. As they leave the shelter with 626, Pleakley and Jumba look shocked. Pleakley realizes that 626 is using Lilo as a human shield, but Jumba still wants to shoot him. Before he can do this, Pleakley stops him because he might shoot Lilo instead. Pleakley accidentally gets shot in the process, and as he feels dizzy, Jumba watches 626 leave with Tutu and Lilo. When they get home, Nani doesn't like the idea of getting Lilo a pet, but Tutu says it could bring joy to their home. Nani then agrees to let
Forgot I'm covering my shift today at work.
Lilo keep 626 for one day, and she also leaves for work. Meanwhile, a special CIA agent named Cobra arrives at the place where 626's ship crashed. Two other agents inform him that the ship's pilot is missing and there are no tracks to follow. However, Cobra believes there's a possibility that the pilot didn't walk away from the scene. The other agents don't think they're dealing with an extraterrestrial creature, but Cobra confirms that a strange animal was found on the road last night. Elsewhere, Tutu heads out with Lilo and 626, and she tells them to wait for her near an ice cream shop. Lilo agrees to do this, and as 626 sees a monster on a nearby TV, he starts pretending to be one. Suddenly, Myrtle walks near the ice cream shop with her friend, and Lilo shows them her new pet. Myrtle says he's ugly, and this makes Lilo sad. Interestingly, another girl drives a toy car near the shop, and 626 gets drawn to it. He then knocks the girl out of it, and as Lilo joins him inside, he hotwires the car to make it go faster. Lilo doesn't understand what's happening, and as Jumba drags Pleakley to the road because he's still dizzy and can't walk,
Are you guys okay?
they see 626 driving away really fast. Pleakley then mentions that 626 is probably trying to drive to a big city for maximum destruction, but he'll soon realize that he's on an island. Just as 626 reaches the end of the road and sees the ocean, he looks disappointed that there's no big city nearby. Lilo doesn't know this, and she says it's amazing to be on an island with no big cities. After this, she takes him to the beach to play around, but 626 seems scared of water. Despite this, they still find fun things to do, and after a while, they meet up with Nani, who is heading to another workplace.
You know you shouldn't be here.
On the way, 626 refuses to sit still, and as he scratches the seats, Nani laments that she'll have to stitch them up. Interestingly, this gives Lilo an idea, and she names her new pet Stitch. Shortly after, Nani nearly hits Jumba while he's dragging Pleakley on the road. Jumba then sees Stitch inside the truck and moves aside so that Nani can pass. As she does this, Jumba throws a tracker under her truck so he can find Stitch later. When they get to the restaurant where Nani works, she tells Lilo to sit silently with her dog. Lilo says she'll do this, and Nani heads over to begin her shift. Almost immediately, David shows up at the restaurant, and Lilo tells him that she just got a dog. David doesn't think Stitch is a dog, but Lilo says he is. Suddenly, Stitch leaves the table to mess around, and as Lilo finds him, he sprays water on her. This makes her happy, and she plays around with him. However, things eventually go south when Stitch tries to do a fire trick with a stick. He ends up setting a table on fire, and as everyone is forced to leave, Nani gets fired.
Put it down.
As Nani then drives home silently, Pleakley and Jumba arrive at the restaurant and notice that 626 is on the move again. Before they can follow Nani's truck, the Grand Councilwoman calls Pleakley and seems pissed that they still haven't caught 626. Pleakley says they're working on it, and he assures her that they'll find the dangerous animal. Meanwhile, Nani still seems pissed at Lilo for not controlling her pet, which made her lose her job. When they arrive home, Lilo says she'll give Stitch a bath, and Nani calls David to complain about the new pet her sister got. Interestingly, Cobra is not far away from the house, and it turns out that he has bugged the entire place. As Lilo tries to give Stitch a bath, he runs away and starts scattering the house. Nani and Lilo struggle to catch him, and this gets Nani pissed. She says they'll take Stitch back to the shelter tomorrow, but Lilo tells her not to do that because he's part of their family. She adds that no one gets left behind in their family, but Nani doesn't care about this.
No.
Lilo then asks why Nani is trying to go against what their parents taught them. Nani says it's because they were left behind, and that Lilo needs to face reality. She adds that she doesn't know what the social worker will say when she finds out about her job. Cobra hears everything going on in the house, and he calls a colleague to get him in touch with Kekoa. Shortly after, Lilo manages to get Stitch to sit gently. She then shows him Nani's old pictures and talks about how she was always the smartest in her class. Lilo adds that Nani was also a good surfer, and she won lots of trophies. As Stitch still remains calm, Lilo asks if he has a family, but he doesn't understand what it means. After she explains it, Stitch says he doesn't have one. Lilo feels sorry for him, and she mentions that it's probably why they met.
Did you have family?
After this, she teaches him the hula dance, and he proves to be a good student. The next day, Kekoa arrives at the house with Cobra, who she calls the new social services director. Nani says she thought he was supposed to come next week, but Kekoa mentions that Nani's case got elevated. As Kekoa then talks to Nani about the bills she still has to pay, Cobra takes a hair sample from Stitch. Shortly after, Nani heads out with Lilo and Stitch to find a new job. Unfortunately, Lilo and Stitch ruin Nani's chances of getting a job by playing around and leaving Nani's potential employers unimpressed. As Nani wonders what she'll do next, Lilo sees a job advert for a surfing instructor, and she says it's a chance for her sister to do something she loves. Nani also seems interested in doing this, and she eventually gets the job. As she starts teaching people at the beach how to surf, she enjoys her new job, and Lilo also joins her.
Maybe you can do something you love.
Stitch still seems scared of the ocean, but when he sees a dog on a surfboard, he signals Lilo that he's ready to try it. While doing this, Pleakley and Jumba suddenly show up behind them and start shooting darts at Stitch. Cobra sees this from the beach and looks shocked. He then calls his colleague to send an extraction team because someone else is after the creature, but he's told that he'll have to wait until the lab finishes up with the analysis of the hair sample. Meanwhile, Stitch avoids getting hit, but he eventually eventually falls into the water along with Nani and Lilo after losing control of the surfboard. Nani then tries to save Lilo, but she notices that Stitch is pushing her sister back into the water. David soon swims into the ocean to help, and Nani tells him that they need to get Stitch to leave Lilo. Just then, Nani knocks off Stitch, and Lilo is saved. After this, Nani takes Lilo to the hospital for a checkup, and the doctor confirms that she's fine. The doctor then tells Nani to go to the front so they can run her insurance, but she remembers that she hasn't done what Kekoa advised.
Yeah.
Shortly after, Kekoa shows up at the hospital to help with the bill, and she says it's time for Nani to do what's best for Lilo. Nani looks sad when she hears this, but Kekoa insists that she has to officially relinquish guardianship of Lilo. Nani asks what it would look like, and Kekoa says they can start the entire process and give the sisters some time together before Lilo leaves to stay with another family. That night, Nani looks sad as she tells Lilo that things aren't going so well for them. She says that with Stitch and the other things that have happened this week, their situation has gone from bad to worse. As she adds that things are about to change, Lilo looks sad and pats Nani's leg. This gets her emotional, and she's unable to say anything about Lilo moving to a new family. After she heads out to get some air, Stitch stands in a corner of the house and looks unhappy because he knows he played a part in how things turned out.
You're going back to surf camp?
Lilo eventually heads out to meet Nani, and as they sing a song about family, Stitch looks disappointed and leaves the house. Elsewhere, the Grand Councilwoman calls Pleakley again and says that the deal is over because they've failed to catch 626. She adds that she's already sending another agent to clean up their mess, and she wants Pleakley to arrest Jumba and bring him back. Jumba doesn't like this, and after the call ends, he creates a portal to send Pleakley to another room. Pleakley complains about this, but Jumba says it's time for him to do things his own way. The next day, Kekoa and Cobra arrive at the house to take Lilo away. Nani still hasn't said anything about it to her sister, and Kekoa encourages her to do it. As Nani enters Lilo's room, she doesn't find her sister. Nani, Kekoa, and Cobra look shocked by this, and they set out to find Lilo along with David and Tutu. Interestingly, Lilo has tracked Stitch back to the shelter, and she says she thought she had lost him. Stitch says he can't follow her back because he's breaking her family apart. As he also says he's bad, Lilo says he's not and that he only does bad things. She also mentions that Stitch is part of her family and he doesn't have to be perfect. Almost immediately, Jumba gets to the shelter through a portal and he tells Stitch to come with him. Lilo says he can't take her friend away, and as he gets distracted, Stitch steals the portal gun from him.
You're not bad.
Jumba doesn't believe Stitch knows how to use the gun, but he learns quickly and creates 2 portals to trap Jumba in a loop. Following this, Stitch and Lilo head home but don't find anyone there. After a while, Jumba changes back to his normal self so he can stop the loop. He then traces Stitch back to Lilo's house. Lilo and Stitch quickly find their way out, and instead of following them, Jumba stays back and says there has to be something important in the house. As he's about to destroy Lilo's parents' room, Lilo heads back inside to confront him. Before he can hurt her, Stitch defends her. During their fight, Pleakley suddenly enters the house and Lilo looks scared. She then uses her pepper spray on Pleakley, and this leaves him in pain. Meanwhile, Stitch overpowers Jumba and knocks him to the ground. Jumba realizes that Lilo and Stitch now have the upper hand, and he decides to stop fighting. However, he mentions that Stitch has to do what's best for Lilo by leaving Earth and going back home with him. He adds that the only reason Stitch picked Lilo at the shelter was for his own protection. Lilo looks shocked when she hears this, and she asks Stitch if Jumba is telling the truth. Stitch doesn't know what to say, and Jumba says that if he really cares about Lilo, he has to leave her alone because he's making her family fall apart. Just then, Stitch drops the portal gun and agrees to follow Jumba, who quickly puts a collar around Stitch's neck. After this, Jumba creates a portal back to his ship, and as he walks away with Stitch, the house starts falling apart due to the serious fight that happened inside.
Hey, stop it!
Tutu sees this from afar while she's with Cobra, and she calls David and Nani to check the house. When they get there, though, they don't find Lilo. As Nani wonders where Lilo went, Pleakley comes out through the rubble to give them an answer. They freak out when they see his real body, but he quickly changes to his human form so they can calm down. Before he can say anything about Lilo, Cobra cuffs Pleakley's hand and reveals that he works for the CIA. Nani is shocked by this, but she, Tutu, and David still ask Pleakley about Lilo's whereabouts. Pleakley says she's on a ship that is about to leave Earth, but Cobra just drags him and says he's heading back to the CIA office. Nani begs him not to do this because they could use his and Pleakley's help to find Lilo. Cobra then gets a chance to report to a colleague that he has caught an alien, but he decides to help Nani instead.
I took an oath to protect the American people.
Meanwhile, Lilo is really on Jumba's ship, but he has no clue. He then begins to talk about his plans to turn Stitch into an evil creature that has no empathy. He also mentions that he'll use Stitch's evil variant to take down the Grand Councilwoman and control the Federation. Stitch doesn't want to turn evil, and as he sees Lilo, he creates a distraction to lure Jumba away from the ship's controls so that Lilo can tap a button to open his cage. Unfortunately, Lilo hits the wrong button, and Jumba sees her. Before he can do anything, she taps the right button, and Stitch attacks him. Stitch also opens the ship's door, and as a strong wind blows Jumba toward it, Lilo changes him back into a human so he can fall off into the ocean. Elsewhere, Pleakley uses his tracker to help Nani and the others locate the ship, which is now about to fall into the ocean. Stitch seems hesitant to jump down before it crashes, and he tells Lilo to go without him. Lilo says they have to go together, and she holds his hand. Before they can jump, an old picture of her parents flies out of her pocket, and Stitch quickly tries to grab it. Almost immediately, the ship crashes into the ocean, and Nani and David start swimming toward it. Unfortunately, Lilo gets stuck down in the water, but before she drowns, Stitch jumps in to save her. As Lilo then tries to swim back up with him, he gets heavier, and she's unable to lift him. When David and Nani reach where Lilo is, she begs them to help Stitch, but they seem more concerned about saving her. Lilo then tells Nani not to forget that family never gets left behind. With this, Nani heads down to help Stitch. As she realizes that she can't swim back up with him,
Okay, we try that.
she grabs him and runs toward the shore. Unfortunately, Stitch is now unconscious, and they're unable to use a defibrillator to revive him. Pleakley says they need something more powerful, and Lilo suggests jump-starting his lungs with the battery of Nani's truck. After doing this, Stitch still remains unconscious, and Lilo looks devastated. While she's crying about losing her friend, Stitch wakes up and she hugs him immediately. Shortly after, the Grand Councilwoman arrives on Earth with her guards to arrest Stitch and take him back. Lilo says they can't do that, but the Grand Councilwoman mentions that Stitch is too dangerous to stay. Stitch then asks if he can say goodbye, and the Councilwoman says he can. As he then hugs Lilo and Nani, the Grand Councilwoman looks shocked and asks who they are. Stitch says they're his family, and Pleakley suggests letting him stay with them. The Grand Councilwoman says someone will have to watch him on Earth, and Pleakley offers to stay back with him. The Grand Councilwoman then says she can't risk the entire public finding out about Stitch, and Cobra promises not to say anything to his bosses at the CIA. Following this, the Grand Councilwoman agrees to let Stitch serve his exile on Earth.
This is my family.
Lilo looks happy about this, and the Grand Councilwoman leaves with her guards and Jumba, who has been arrested. When Nani and Lilo return home with David and Tutu, they look shocked to see the damaged house. As they talk about rebuilding it, Keikoa shows up and says she has come up with an idea to prevent the sisters from being separated. She then mentions that Tutu has offered to take Lilo in officially. Nani thanks Tutu for helping, and Lilo says she now wants her sister to go to college to study marine biology because their parents would want that. Nani says she has to stay back because it's her responsibility to take care of Lilo. However, Tutu tells Nani that she also has to take care of herself. She adds that Nani doesn't have anything to worry about because Lilo will be fine with her and David. As Nani then thinks about this, Tutu tells her to go to college and make her family proud. Following this, they start rebuilding the house, with Pleakley and Cobra also helping out, and Nani soon leaves for college college. After Nani and Lilo lose their parents, they're forced to live on their own. As they begin struggling with finances, Nani considers sending Lilo to a family that can take good care of her. Stitch eventually comes into their lives while trying to run away from Jumba and Pleakley, but he only ends up making things worse for them. However, he redeems himself by saving Lilo, despite knowing how heavy he gets underwater. Luckily, he survives, escapes serious punishment from the Federation, and chooses to stay on Earth with Nani and Lilo, who find a solution to their struggles.